Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to Track 2. I'm John Wee, your host for Track 2 of Big Data Days 2024. Today, we are very honored to have our guest speaker, Joyce, who is going to talk to us about how we can improve customer experience using AI. Now, this is something very out of the extraordinary, and we would like to get Joyce to share some of our thought leadership on this specific area to see how really we can actually improve that using AI on the customer experience. Hi, Joyce. How are you doing today? You good?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. So I'm going to hand over the session to us because this is going to be a very interesting topic. I would love to know more how we could actually really take advantage of AI to improve the customer experience in that sense. So over to you, Joyce.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So today I'm excited to talk to you about AI in action, 5 ways to improve the customer experience using AI. And first I want to say, why is this topic important? We know that marketers have a lot more challenges today than they have in the past. It's not just print media, telephone, text, it's social media, it's, advertising on, Hulu or Netflix. There's a lot of ways that marketers have to reach customers, and it's become a lot more expensive, a lot more difficult to do. And so, of course, marketers are hoping to leverage AI to be able to do their jobs better, faster, and in many ways. But it's not that easy, as we all know. Marketers work in conjunction with others. So the data that marketers use, that customer data, that they want to take a look at a complete view of a customer, it's not just used by marketers, it's used by others in the company, other functional organization units. So for example, like the service department, takes that same customer data and uses it whenever they need to handle a case by a customer. And that's important that we think holistically about the job that marketers do in relation to what others do in the company. Because as a marketer, you wouldn't want to send out an advertisement, for example, to someone who has an open case with the company. You wouldn't want to try to upsell them or ask them to renew their subscription. So marketers have a tough job of being able to take all the data and synthesize it. And again, it's just not that easy for them to do, specifically because marketers know marketing, and their expertise isn't necessarily in data. So that's why marketers need to communicate and work closely with those in an organization who do have that data expertise, that data knowledge. But unfortunately, sometimes the folks that have the data knowledge don't necessarily know so much what marketers do and what their challenges are. So today we're hoping to bring together in a conversation, bridge that gap. So if you're on the marketing side of things, what challenges you face. And hopefully you can learn a little bit today about some technology options that are there for you to leverage to make your job easier. If you're on the data side of things, which many of you probably are, it's hopefully a time today to learn a little bit of the challenges that marketers face from a technology and data perspective, and how you can work with them, to bring the AI to life, bring the AI in action for your particular organization or the organization you're working for. And so myself, I actually kind of feel like I fit where you see today's content between the marketers and the data technology experts. So just briefly, a little bit about me. I am the author of 2 O'Reilly technical books, the Salesforce Data Cloud and the Snowflake Definitive Guide. I do have a background in technology, computer science degree, and some work in the tech field as an architect and a consultant. But I actually began my career journey in the business area. So as a certified public accountant, where I audited other people's data. So I took a look at a lot of financial data. I've done things like being an entrepreneur, where I did my own marketing. So I have that business background combined a little bit with the technology background. And so that's the intersection I love to talk about, and helping both sides to really come together. One fun fact about me is recently I was part of a Guinness World Record breaking event in March that is relevant for the topic today. So I'm going to kind of hold off on telling you what that is until later in the presentation. I'll bring up my participation in that world event and how it's relevant for today's session. So today's session is going to be broken down into really three main parts. The first part, we're just going to, briefly talk about AI in general at a high level, what organizations hope that they're able to accomplish with it. You notice I say hope, because that journey to get to the top of the mountain and implement AI doesn't really look like what you see on the screen. It looks more like this. More, challenges that marketers and others in the company face. And so today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the challenges to implementing and using AI. And when we do, we want to follow up with a discussion about three solutions, technology solutions that are fairly new. Some of them are fairly new, and talk about how they lay the foundation for when you're actually able to take that AI in action and make it work. So we'll spend more time on these real examples of AI in action that are used by marketers, so you can see different tools and platforms that you can use to be able to leverage that in your organization, whether you're in the marketing department or on the data side of things. And so don't worry, I'll keep it at a high level, but at the very end, I'll share some resources that you can follow up. If you're one of the folks that loves to get hands-on, I've got some resources where a lot of them are free resources where you can actually replicate some of the AI action that I'm going to show you today. So the first section of, what do people in an organization want to do with AI? Of course, they'd like for it to solve all problems. But if you ask them a lot of the surveys out there, what at a high level, what do you want to do with AI? Well, I want to do things better, faster. I want to, cheaper. I want to be more efficient. I want to, have more sales more quickly. I definitely want to achieve the personalization at scale if I'm a marketer. And I want to unlock new opportunities. I want to be able not only to do the things well that I do today, but I want to do new things that I haven't been able to do as well. Sounds great. You may even, if you're on the developer side of things, you may even want to use AI to accelerate software development, mitigate risk. But today we're really going to focus on the left-hand side, those at a high level that talk about efficiency, effectiveness, the marketing, personalization, monitoring the customer experiences, those kind of things. So we'll take these 5, and later on when we get to the AI in action, we'll match those up with tools and platforms that are actually being used today successfully by marketers. So we mentioned that we'd love to do all sorts of things with AI, but really, what are our challenges? Like, what is preventing us from actually getting there and putting things in action? I've kind of broken it down into what I consider to be, the 7 main challenges that an organization, faces, and kind of geared a little more toward the marketing side of things. But these are some reasons why we're finding it very difficult to implement AI. And the first, for the marketing perspective, is this lack of a strategy for a cookieless future. This is a tremendous challenge faced by marketers. The third-party cookies are going away. If you haven't heard, which you probably have, the third-party cookies are going away. It's happening. It's happening a little more slowly than is expected, but it's happening. And so it's very difficult for marketers without those third-party cookies. They have to come up with a first-party strategy. The siloed, inaccessible data for marketers, that may mean, over time, our company has, gone through mergers and acquisitions, and the data exists in a lot of different places. It could be that we have different platforms that hold little pieces of the data, and we really haven't had a way to bring all that together and to get that customer 360 view. Prior technology investments, we know that companies have invested in technology, and they don't want to have to keep taking that and redoing it again in a different kind of a platform. So there's great solutions that we have to talk about. How do we leverage our prior technology investments? Trust and data privacy for first-party data. Of course, we know marketers are challenged with keeping data private, making sure that we're compliant. So this isn't just a marketing thing. Obviously, this is an organizational challenge. problems with traditional data sharing methods. Copying and sharing data is difficult, and we're going to talk about ways that we can overcome some of those problems. AI skill sets are not easy to hire for. It isn't easy to find folks with this skill set, as you can probably imagine and. So we've got to talk about the ways that we can solve for the fact that we don't have a lot of folks with those AI skill sets. And then lastly, it's very costly to build AI solutions from scratch. So these challenges are really indicative of like the underlying problem of actually getting to the data and stitching the data together and making it work. It's a challenge. So in the technology area, we've seen a lot of tools and platforms come about that kind of help organizations get to the level where they can actually use AI. Let's briefly walk through those 3 solutions from a technology perspective to see how we can leverage those in action, to get our marketers to where they can leverage that AI. So we talked about 7 challenges. I'm going to look here at, 3 of the challenges about that cookieless future, siloed, inaccessible data, and the trust and data privacy issue. Recently, you may not have heard about a customer data platform. It's really kind of a new technology. And it's Gartner, for the first time this year, has come out with their Magic Quadrant for the customer data platform. So it is still kind of a new technology. And what a customer data platform is bringing together all of that siloed data that exists in your organization, in multiple platforms, bringing it together holistically. Seems like you'd want to be doing that. And that's what a customer data platform does. It is different than something, like a master data management, where you're looking for that golden record and just having, a kind of like a flat view of the customer. The customer data platform really gives you that 360 view. And it is used a lot by marketers. I know our conversation today is about marketing, but it's, again, used by others in the organization for, customer service, for risk, all sorts of different things. So what is in a customer data platform? Customer data platform brings together your data and stores it. You've got to, model all the data so it fits together. But the key critical part here is that identity management, because we know we have our customers that have, different identities, on their phone, on the website, in social media. And we've got to be able to stitch all that data together so that we can look at a customer holistically. And then once we have that 360 view, we'll be able to segment, activate, market, send, marketing campaigns to the right folks at the right time. And then, of course, we want to be able to take those segments and activate them and actually take action. And that's what we're going to talk about later, is how do we actually do that in action. For a customer data platform that is so different from the other marketing tools and platforms that marketers use, it is a great way to capture unknown data and combine it with known data. So what do I mean by that? You might have a potential customer visiting your website, visiting pages, interacting with you, but you don't really know who they are yet because they haven't, created a login identity. But you don't want to lose that rich information about what they're doing, what experience they're having with you. So you're capturing that. It's an unknown profile. But as soon as they give you a little piece of information, like an email address or social media account, you're able to stitch all that together in your customer data platform. So that was one technology solution that, the data technology folks and the marketers have come together to be able to say, we've got a customer data platform now. And that solves that can potentially solve some of the challenges that we face. But what else is there? What else can we add to our tool belt to maybe get the AI in action? One important thing that you can consider is this secure data sharing and collaboration. Now, we talked earlier about having that, inaccessible data, but we've got all these prior technology investments. We've got, tech debt, and we don't want to have to move everything to a new platform and start over again. Well, a great way that we can not have to do that is with something called secure data sharing. It's a very unique, different way to share data, and I'll talk about that in a minute. You may have heard the terms, if you're familiar with like the Salesforce side of things, you may have heard zero ETL. It's the same thing. It's the same concept. Same terminology. It just depends on if you're talking to someone from Salesforce or Snowflake, whether it's secure data sharing, collaboration, zero ETL. And what is the benefit? It's a great way to access live data, where you don't have to move everything, lift and shift to a whole new platform. So I mentioned earlier about the difficulties in traditional, methods of sharing data. How do most companies share data today? They make a copy, they send the copy, through, APIs, through ETL pipelines. There's all sorts of ways that we transfer data today. And it has a lot of problems, as you can see here. Of course, it's, anytime you copy and move data between environments, it's never real time anymore. There's always this potential of, it's not fresh. And then, of course, every time you make a copy, you've got to pay storage. So, there's so many different challenges that you face, even from a security and governance perspective. So the way that we've traditionally shared data could be improved, and it has been improved, actually. Snowflake, for those of you who are familiar with the technology, they're actually the leaders and the pioneer in this secure data sharing. So secure data sharing is possible today because of Snowflake's architecture. They were the first to break apart the compute and the data storage layer. So that means you can expand your compute or expand your storage. It doesn't have to be one-to-one. So I kind of think of it as magic, and it's just, obviously I'm very passionate about it. I think secure data sharing is just, Snowflake is just incredible for giving that to us. And so what it does here, you could see that, as I mentioned, you could have your one data store, so many different workloads that could be accessing that, expand, contract for the compute services itself. And it could be, we're going to see with the secure data sharing internally or externally, having that secure data sharing. So when I say secure data sharing, data collaboration, zero ETL, I mean that you can share your data. I'll give you a good example. You've got, within an organization, you've got two divisions, and maybe one of them has data that they need to share with another division. So that would be an example of a company sharing the data internally. Externally might be that you have, vendor data that you're a vendor for a particular retail company and you want to share your product information, your sales. You could do that securely. You don't make a copy of the data. It's kind of like for those who are from a technology perspective, it's more of like a pointer to the metadata. So again, you don't have to do a lift and shift. You don't have to move your data. And it's built in such a way that you can take advantage of the secure data sharing in much more than just a one-to-one. So it could be a one-to-many as well. And we'll see that if you're interested in, getting data in this way, you could visit the Snowflake Marketplace as well and see the vendors there that actually make their data available to you live. Okay, so that was two technology solutions. The third solution that we're probably all familiar with is this no-code and low-code solution. So, why are we interested in no-code and low-code? It's because of the data democratization and now the AI democratization. So those folks in an organization, like marketers, who are not traditional IT folks, they don't know a bunch of coding languages. They just want to be able to do their job, and they want to be able to access the data in a way that is usable for them. And so this low code, no code, helps with the fact that the AI skill sets are not easy to hire for, and it's very costly and time consuming to build AI from scratch. So we've seen a lot of low code and no code solutions. So what do I mean by no code, low code? It's where the end users leverage pre-built components and they're able to visually, use drag and drop, and not so much having to write the code. Just how prevalent is it? If you look at a lot of the surveys, Gartner, for one of them, says that this year alone, that low-code apps will account for more than 65% of app development. So we know that there's a lot of low-code and no-code tools, and they're being very successful in helping us with our democratization of data. And one of those, if you look at the Gartner's Magic Quadrant, is the Salesforce platform. So again, Salesforce comes up time and time again for me personally. So it's one of the premier low-code, no-code platforms. All right, so we've built our foundation of, identifying some of the challenges, identifying ways that we now have technology solutions to be able to address some of those. So the customer data platform, the secure data sharing, and then we just last talked about the low-code, no-code platforms. So now the fun part, the exciting part, how do we actually do it? So what are we using AI in action? How are marketers using it today? So I'm going to talk about here these 5 different ways that you can find organizations today using AI to make their marketers successful. So we want to talk about the efficiency. How are we going to improve efficiency? How are we going to increase effectiveness, personalization at scale, and then monitoring customer experiences and unlocking new opportunities? How can we leverage some of the tools and platforms we just mentioned to be able to make that happen? Okay, before we do that, I'll stop here and say Salesforce. I know I've mentioned Salesforce. What do they call their AI component? You probably guessed it. They call it Einstein. So Salesforce has Einstein AI embedded within their platform. And recently I was at an event for Salesforce, and we broke the Guinness Book of World Records for having the most people dressed up as Einstein in one place. So I was part of this. Now I'm super excited to say that I'm in the Guinness Book of World Records. All right. So Salesforce Einstein, you'll see Mr. Einstein down in the bottom right-hand corner for a few things. And just to kind of remind you that we're talking about AI functionalities within Salesforce. So Salesforce has something called their Einstein Copilot. And it's available in the flow of work. So why is this so exciting? It's because just as soon as you log into the platform to go about your normal day, Einstein is there. You don't have to do this swivel chair approach to go to your AI, come back. It's all right there. It's built in. It's trusted. And you can see here that one of the things you could do is say, hey, what can you do? And Einstein says, hey, I can do a lot of things. I can draft or revise sales emails. I can, search your records. I can aggregate data. How can I help you? And so you can ask a question, conversational, as you would expect you could do with, Copilot, is say, hey, tell me, tell me about a particular account. Give me the information. So Einstein Copilot will come back, give you the information that you need, gives you links to click on if you want. But the great and exciting thing for me is not only can you click through and leverage the data that you already have, but it's conversational and it keeps the context. So you've asked about this particular account, and now you say, do they have any active orders? So again, it's conversational as you would expect your AI assistant to be. And the way that, really the great way that it works right out of the box with Salesforce is because Salesforce has their metadata built in. So they have their data model already set up so that everyone uses that base data model. So therefore, to be able to access Einstein, it's really just turning it on. It's flipping the switch to say, turn on Einstein and turn on Einstein Copilot for sales. And then just as soon as you log into Salesforce, Einstein leverages all your data and you're able to, in the flow of work, as you're looking at different accounts, be able to have that conversation. Now, it does come, I mentioned it comes standard out of the box. You flip on, the switch and it works with certain standard actions, being able to access the records and give you information back. But you can also create your own custom actions. And, how do you do that? If you want to, get hands-on and see exactly how to use the Einstein Copilot, it will actually take you less than 20 minutes. There's a hands-on quick start that Salesforce provides for free. You can get hands-on with their Copilot and really take a look at. I would suggest if you do nothing else, hands-on from today, that you try this out. It's just super cool. And I'll give you the information at the end. All right. So the second way that we want to be able to access AI for marketers, the first way that we talked about was very generic. No matter what industry you're in, if you have the Salesforce platform, you log in, it's there, you're ready to go. But what if you're in an industry and you need some very specific solution to AI? Salesforce has specific solutions as well. One of them is this, what we call recommendations for retail. It's very industry specific. So I was in Home Depot recently, passing by, saw this big display of, Ryobi, blowers and all sorts of different equipment. And I noticed there was a gentleman there, his little Ryobi t-shirt, and he was managing things. You've probably seen lots of folks like that. They go into the store, they represent the company, and they manufacture consumer retail goods, but they don't sell them directly, or they have a larger way in which they sell them, like through a retail outlet, like Home Depot. And so these folks that visit the stores, they have to figure out which stores am I going to visit? When am I going to visit them? How frequently? What's the best way to get there? What's the route? What do I do when I get there? It sure would be nice to have an AI assistant be able to help you with that. Salesforce has something called this Einstein visit recommendations, where it will tell you, here's what we recommend. The stores that you visit, the things that you do. Again, it's a toggle switch to turn on. You build the logic, enable the recommendations, and then once you do that, you could see, the Einstein is going to give you the recommendations based on what you've entered. So what kind of things do you enter? Well, you enter, the marketers would enter, here's the promotion that we're going to be running. And we want to make sure that we have enough goods that are there for the promotion. The last thing we want to do is point people to Home Depot to buy a Ryobi piece of equipment and not have it there. So you've got all these pieces of information, all this data that Salesforce on the back end manages and is able to give these representatives a recommendation of which store to visit, what to do when they're there, whether the priority is high or medium based on a number of different factors. But again, the human element says you take the recommendation, you can then either edit it, delete it, even further ask for task recommendations. So you can take it a little bit further if you want, but you have complete control. If you want to get hands-on, again, 30 minutes or less, there's a great way to test it out yourself if you want to go see what it's like. All right. Third, to achieve the personalization at scale, marketers do need to be able to create that personalization. And to be able to do that, they create segments. So they create segments. If you have, for example, donors, and you're a nonprofit and you have donors, and you want to be able to send a message to donors who have had a good recurring history with you, given you money repeatedly, have attended some events recently, but haven't given money in the last 60 days. You can actually, in a conversation, ask Einstein to be able to give you that segment conversationally. And so if you want to be able to implement that in Salesforce, again, flip a switch and Einstein segment creation. I think you're getting kind of like the theme of low code, no code. Salesforce is the ultimate in having you be able to kind of flip some switches, make it happen, with the low code and no code. And again, another quick start if you want to be able to access it hands-on. All right, the fourth way, this is one way that I'm really super excited about. I recently went to the Apple store and tried the Apple Vision Pro, and it was an experience. And I left, and when I got home the next day, I got a survey. Hey, tell us about your experience. How was the person who helped you? What do you think about the product? Did you buy it? If you didn't, why didn't you buy it? Do you plan on buying it? So I was receiving a survey. And the reason I was receiving a survey is because Apple wanted to be able to tell, where am I at in my customer life cycle? Am I aware of the product? Have I purchased it? Where am I at, and what am I thinking about it? And so getting this customer feedback from customers to be able to then use them as part of the underlying data to build out our AI and give a better customer experience. We need the feedback from the customers. We need the survey experience. So having this customer lifecycle information and gathering it, and then giving the recommendation on what to do next. This is, I think, for me, one of the really exciting things that I think about in a marketing perspective. So gathering the data is important. What happens if someone's not responding to a survey? You could look in. So if we use Einstein within Salesforce, you could actually go to the record and look at it and say, how many surveys have they given us in the past? What do we think they're going to give us a response to this most recent survey? Yep, 82% likelihood they're probably going to respond. But what could we do to improve the odds that they're going to respond to the survey? So Einstein will take the information, all what they know about me, if I'm the customer in this situation, what they know about me, and then what they could do to maybe improve, ways that I might be able to respond back to them. So definitely at a customer level, you're going to see Einstein being able to be embedded, again, right where you are in the flow of work. And so if you want to, try this one out, this one does take a little bit longer. It's about an hour, but you'll be able to see an amazing application that shows you how you can access the customer lifecycle and how you can, what recommendations there are to be able to maybe get more interaction from your customers. All right, so this takes us to our final, AI in action. How is it being used today to unlock new opportunities? So I've talked a lot about Salesforce. I'm going to talk this one about Snowflake. So I mentioned earlier about this Snowflake secure data sharing and how it opens up all sorts of opportunities to do amazing things when you securely share your data. One of those is something called a data clean room. So it is used often by marketers, but not necessarily only by marketers. And the reason is because when you share that data securely, you can then run machine learning applications on top of it. So this opens up a whole lot of opportunities, not only for marketers, but for like in the financial services, identifying potential fraud transactions, those kind of things. So what do we mean about the data clean room? So the data clean room is when you have two organizations share their data securely, and it's a show but don't share. So you're not able to see someone else's data, but you're able to leverage the combined data together. Some examples of that, you may have heard of some of these. So Walmart Connect, Disney's Clean Room, NBC One Platform. So if you're in the marketing space, you know that some of these ways that you can access data from these big companies would really help you. So how does this happen? Like what do we do? If you're a manufacturer, like I talked about before, Ryobi being one of those with Home Depot, but if you're a manufacturer and you sell your product to Walmart and they stock the shelves with your product, you don't have a relationship with the end customer. It's very difficult to get an ROI on your marketing campaigns. Is it working? Is it not? So one way that you could do that is partner with Walmart, share your data securely, and they're able to actually give you information back that doesn't give any PII information. You're not sharing PII information. So it gives you online and offline customer behavior, so if your marketing campaigns are working, for example. One of my favorites data clean room is this Disney's Clean Room. And the way this works is that Disney actually has a lot of information about folks that watch some of their, Disney channels, Hulu channels, those kind of things. And so if you share your data securely with them, they're able to give you feedback on, segments that you can create marketing campaigns for. So it's a way that you're able to share the data securely and not have to pay for storage, not have to reveal PII information. And same way with Walmart. I talked about Walmart Connect. Walmart Connect actually gives you feedback. It gives you a measurement of whether your ROI is working. So you've got your marketing campaigns. You're able to see if those campaigns are effective by sharing your data with Walmart. If you want to try out the technology and want to see what it is actually like with secure data sharing, Snowflake as well has a hands-on opportunity for you to be able to access and learn how it's one thing for me to try to talk to you about secure data sharing and the technology behind it, but getting hands-on is a great way to see, oh, this is how it actually works. So in summary, we talked about 5 different very specific ways that marketers are using technology to the AI capabilities and technology to improve the customer experience. Now, I focused on Salesforce and Snowflake as the platforms to give you some very specific examples, but there's others in action. I focused on those because those are my areas of expertise. And so we talked about today about that Gen AI assistant in the flow of work. You turn on Salesforce Einstein, you're able to then use your conversational AI assistant right away out of the box in the flow of work. We talked about the Einstein recommendations. So if you're in the consumer goods industry and you have a very specific use case where you need to visit retail stores, Salesforce has an Einstein solution for that. The smart segmentation, just being able to conversationally ask for a segment without having to create the code behind it to get that segment. The customer life cycle map. So interacting with your customer, getting the feedback from them, knowing where they're at in their journey so you can send them the right message at the right time. And then lastly, using predictive insights with this Snowflake data clean room, which is an example of secure data sharing, which allows you to share your data securely and share but don't show. If anything that I talked about today interests you and you kind of want to learn a little bit more, you want to get hands-on, see what it looks like, here's some resources for you. I did throw in a couple of, YouTube video. There's, quick start from Snowflake, Salesforce Trailhead, and some books that you're able to access. And of course, you can always reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you and, share anything else along the way with you. So thank you for your time today. I really appreciated the conversation.
We've just shared a whole ton of information to our audience and myself on how this happened. Especially the last part, I think the quite we had that clean data warehouse that you don't share or don't display the PII. I think that's something a little bit unique. I mean, I've not seen that in action, but thank you for sharing that idea. I think that gives me a couple of interesting thoughts of how we could actually layer the data and actually make some insight out of it. We do have some questions in the Q&A. Allow me to project them so that we can actually get you to perhaps help to share your thoughts on this. So this one is from Charlotte. So Charlotte's question is asking, what are the key competency or skills that the marketing team should develop to effectively implement AI in customer experience strategy? So what would your recommendation is, Joyce?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. So, competencies or skills, I mentioned 2 platforms, Salesforce, Snowflake. Learning a skill about a platform is important, but I think it's even more important to just really understand the data. So some data literacy, understanding the data models and kind of what's underlying it. You don't have to be an expert, but just understanding the data relationships and, just data in general.
I think it's also important to be willing to experiment with it. I think, like you mentioned, those data warehouse or connection stuff like that, right? Again, from my limited experience, when you start to layer different data sources, you kind of get different insights. Even simple things like the weather pattern, right, or even the traffic conditions. If you are a physical retail store, that makes a lot of difference as well in those kind of situations. In that sense. Right, thanks for that. Let's look at another question that we have for one of our attendees. So let me project it. So the question is, how can companies strike a bit of a balance between automation through AI and perhaps maintain a more personalized touch in how the customer interact with us? Any suggestion for this, Joyce?
Yeah, that's again, a great question about striking the balance, because you definitely want to provide that personalization at scale without your customer knowing, necessarily that you're using an AI. They want it to feel like a personal touch. And I know, so for me personally, using the Salesforce, Copilot, I think, gives you the information, but you can have that interaction real time with the customer. So that's a really important point of being able to have the data real time, to be able to have a conversation, and them ask questions. You've got your Einstein Copilot or any other like conversational AI assistant, which helps you understand the customer a little bit better, even gives you the recommendations. But then of course, you're actually communicating with the customer. That's why you can take the recommendations and use them or not. So it's not just relying specifically on what the AI gives you, but that human, personal touch. But again, personalization at scale means that if you leverage AI, you can spend the time that you need with a customer rather than necessarily always routing them through a chatbot when it's not appropriate. It gives you, you have to spend less time doing the research and figuring things out, more time, real time communication with a customer.
Yep, I think that's very much something that a lot of people have not really taken that into consideration. And I personally like some of those personal recommendations, right? Because it does save me a lot of time to try and sift through or even look at, what to buy or kind of thing, right? So if the AI kind of understand my needs, I think that will be a good place to start at least from my perspective. Right. Let's look at another interesting question that is from our audience here. So this is from Sarab, and he's asking, any thoughts on how AI can help our marketer to make the campaign more efficient and effective? I think this is really trying to drive for a good marketing campaign. What are your thoughts on this one, Joyce?
Yeah, so a marketing campaign, I think, starts from the beginning of just first figuring out the correct segment, right? So you're sending the right message at the right time to the right person, is making sure that you have the data foundation built using AI, to help you find the right segment. Once you have that segment, then of course it's about creating the content. So creating the content, again, that personalization at scale, using what we know about the customer, but actually, letting the AI, help us create content that would be relevant for them. So creating the segment, I think, is important, but creating the content is just as important.
Right. I think that's very, very interesting, because a lot of time we lose sight of which specific segment of customers that we are trying to target. And then at the same time, we probably have not really prepared the right content to really send that out, because I think the two have to work hand in hand from that perspective. Yep, I think that's a great advice. We'll probably have time for one last question. Allow me to project that. This is from Morgan. So Morgan is asking a different question. So he's asking, what are the potential risks if we become a little bit over-reliant on AI, right, in using for the customer interaction, and how could we perhaps mitigate it from an organization standpoint? Suggestion, Joyce, on how we tackle this?
Yeah, so it definitely is a risk to over rely on AI and not use what that personal touch, that personal interaction with a customer. So and there's also a risk that we're going to get it wrong. There's also a risk that we might not have the right data that we need. So we may be relying specifically on what the AI has given us for a recommendation. But maybe we as a human interacting with another human, we're realizing that that's not, landing well with them. So, that I think the biggest risk is not having the right data, not having data that is trusted and secure. I think is probably the biggest risk, and
Yep.
over relying on that data that's not necessarily the right underlying data.
Yep, I think we really need to ask the question: is the data the right data? Because a lot of time we assume that the data that we've collected over time, right, is actually correct or even accurate to start with. I think if you look at a lot of the KYC effort that companies put in, right, they really want to validate that. Same with compliance or governance these days. As we look at that specific topic on risk mitigation, it's always important to revalidate the data in that sense. Right. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. Joyce, thank you so much again for sharing so much great information on how we could really leverage on some of the tools out there in making sure that we can actually start using the AI to so-called enhance or humanize that customer journey. Right, coming up next on the hour, we do have George joining us on track 2. Do join us for track 2 on George's presentation, looking at the role of metadata in the business and AI. Again, Joyce, thank you so much for dialing in from Texas. Wishing you a great day ahead in Austin, Texas, and then we'll talk to you again. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.